Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new episode of Africa Today. Before we start, let me first say congratulations to all the Egyptians for two occasions. The first, it's the Resurrection Day. To all our Christians, to all our Copts, to all Egyptians in general, we are celebrating these happy moments, and we are living it together as usual for thousands of years, and it's going to remain, inshallah. The second occasion is the Labor Day, or the Laborers' Day to be accurate. To all those workers, to all the laborers, to all who are working for the best interest of Egypt, thank you for everything and for every tiny thing, to be accurate, introduced to our nation. Now back to Africa Today. We are very much delighted to have with us Dr. Salah Arafa, the professor of physics, to speak with us about a very important issue, which is renewable energy and the challenges facing renewable energy in the Black Continent. Dr. Arafa, thank you very much for being with us, sir.
You are most welcome.
As far as I understand, that it's not only about being a professor of physics, you are also a member of an alliance, something which is completely dedicated or concerned with renewable energy in Africa. First, since when this alliance was launched in the first place?
It was really started as an idea in Ethiopia, in one of the scientific meetings in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That was 2009. And it was supported by the World Future Council, that's in Germany. After working together, trying to form this alliance, I was very happy that I was representing Egypt in the steering committee.
How many African countries are integrated into this alliance?
Now 60.
60?
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as I understand, that the coming war is going to be on two main issues: water and energy. What are the main challenges facing Africa in this issue?
Really, the main challenges are, as you rightly said, water and energy, but now coming two very important issues: food and climate change.
Yeah.
The four are really the main challenges facing Africa.
Or the whole world, in a way.
Generally. But in Africa, we can add the second challenge, which is really, or the fifth challenge, which is really education. We need to learn from each other. We need to improve our learning processes. We need to educate the public. We need the media to really part of the development process and not only information transformation. So that was really the main reason that this alliance, African Renewable Energy Alliance, was formed to exchange ideas, to support each other, to exchange ideas about how to proceed with these resources that we have in the desert areas of our countries.
Yeah.
So that was really the main reason of initiating that.
Yeah. And since you have mentioned climate change, sir, South African Minister of Environment Affairs, Edna Molewa, has signed the Paris Agreement on climate change at the United Nations, New York. We have more details in the coming report.
South Africa has signed the Paris Agreement on climate change at the United Nations in New York. The agreement is universally regarded as a seminal point in the development of the international climate change regime under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The Paris Agreement was adopted on the 12th of December 2015 at the 21st session of the Conference of the Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. The agreement was adopted after 4 years of intense negotiations. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, acting in his capacity as depository of the agreement, convened a high-level ceremony for the opening for signature of the agreement on the 22nd of April. Parties to the convention are able to sign the agreement until 21st of April 2017. The South African minister signed the agreement on behalf of the South African government. The agreement is a comprehensive framework which will guide international efforts to limit greenhouse gas emissions and to meet all the associated challenges posed by climate change. It signals the change in pace towards the low-carbon development from 2020 onwards through commitments of countries in ambitious national plans called nationally determined contributions. This outcome recognizes that climate change represents an urgent threat to human societies and the planet, requiring the widest possible cooperation by all countries and other stakeholders. The main objective of the agreement is to limit the global temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius, while pursuing efforts to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees. The recognition of the 1.5 degree target is of central importance to South Africa as an African developing country that is highly vulnerable to climate change.
Welcome back. Dr. Arfa, shed light on climate change and the climate change issue, it's not a luxury anymore. And it can be a threat not only to Africa but to the whole world. Unfortunately, the big powers of the world and the highly economic or the most developed countries are those responsible for the disaster the whole planet is living. But those who are going to pay the price are the African continent or are the African states or Africa in specific. Do we have any strategy to face this issue or to face this threat?
As Egyptian or as Africans?
We are African, Arab,
Okay.
Middle Eastern. I mean, it's our fate.
In fact, last Wednesday, we had a very interesting workshop in the National Research Center about climate change and its impact on our agriculture.
Yeah.
And China also. So that was a cooperation between Egypt and China.
Great.
In this, and you can see it now that agriculture means also food.
Sure.
So it's coming the challenge that is also very important to us. I think this is the main problem. We need to care about our future generations, and to care about them, it means that we need to leave for them at least a healthy environment. And this healthy environment, as you rightly also said, that the big powers are really
Responsible.
contributing mainly to what is happening in the world, but we need also to make the strengths of opposition.
This was my coming question. Regarding the African continent, regarding the African countries, do we have this kind of cooperation and coordination among each other in the Energy Alliance, for example, as one of the ways to do so? Do we have a strong front? I mean, are we capable of facing the big powers with the dangers threatening us as Africa?
And this was really the main reason that we have formed the alliance. You can speak about great research in one country, but no one is going to listen to it. You can raise your voice in one media, not everyone would listen to it. But really the alliance is very, very important. And I think in this Paris Convention, it was very good that many countries have really contributed, and hopefully that this agreement would be put into effect by the cooperation. And this is really what is really lacking in Africa, that we need to cooperate with each other to face the problems that's coming from the other side.
Yeah.
Because this is really also because most of the continent is poor. We accept sometimes.
Most of the continent became poor after the colonization, after hundreds of years under invasion by other big powers. But sir, let me here focus a little bit more on the problems we have. You said that it's the lack of coordination or cooperation among us as African states. But what about finance? And what about taking the scientific research into consideration? Because unfortunately, even here in Egypt, we can find a lot of research and a lot of studies were made. But unfortunately, ink on paper, they are not implemented on the ground. How we can solve this problem?
You catch the very important issue, and I think if we look at this triangle, by saying that we are at the bottom and the developed countries are at the top, you can notice very well that most of our money from the bottom is going to be invested on the top.
There.
And also our educated people are moving from the bottom to the top. So you are not leaving for us the financing or the thinking of really the development as we need it, as we have the issues. So I think it's very important that we can think of keeping our scientists, or at least making a good use of them, and also invest within. When we are really saying that we need to invest within the country, within the continent, within the Arab region, it's very, very important.
You know, sir,
not
what
to
you've
spend
just
it outside.
said reminds me of the global phenomena of terrorism. The developed countries did not participate in fighting terrorism except when they were exposed to terror attacks. And if they do not know now how the climate change is another danger or another threat, they are not going to participate. But I think that they have learned the lesson in a way. Let's continue with this after this detailed comprehensive report about Power Africa, which supports Climate Fund for Renewable Energy. We have more details.
Occasion of Earth Day, which was marked on the 22nd of April, Power Africa signed an agreement with the Dutch Development Bank, the FMO, to spur investment in renewable energy across sub-Saharan Africa. Through the United States Agency for International Development, Power Africa will commit $5 million in support of the Climate Investor 1, the CIO, which finances and helps fast-track wind, solar and hydropower projects in sub-Saharan Africa. CIO targets medium-sized renewable energy projects of between 25 megawatts and 75 megawatts and shares Power Africa's goal to add 30,000 megawatts of new power generation capacity and 60 million new business and household connections across sub-Saharan Africa. Power Africa coordinator said Power Africa's support of the Climate Investor 1 is indicative of continued investment in renewable energy technologies throughout sub-Saharan Africa. He added that from wind parks in Kenya to solar arrays in Rwanda and geothermal generation in Ethiopia, Power Africa and their partners are putting the continent's vast renewable resources to work. He noted that this agreement with CIO will not only help deliver new access to reliable, affordable and sustainable electricity, it will help their African government partners boost economic development and tackle climate change at the same time. High energy demand and the challenges presented by climate change have advanced renewable energy solutions in sub-Saharan Africa. Many countries have established or are strengthening supportive policy and regulatory frameworks for private investment of renewable energy infrastructure activities. CIO combines three innovative investment funds into one, a development fund to reduce development times and improve bankability of projects, a construction equity fund to provide a single source of equity finance to fund construction and progress projects at an operational stage, and a refinancing fund to provide long-term and low-risk debt during operations. The three funds together allow CIO to help early-stage climate mitigation projects achieve bankability while providing an end-to-end public-private financing solution.
Welcome back. Dr. Araf, as far as I remember, that Germany said that they are going to get rid of all the nuclear plants they have by the year 2020 or 2022 by maximum. And then it's the solar energy and the wind, which are going to be the main sources of renewable energy. And if so, then Africa is going to be the treasure of the whole world. How we can propagate for this first and use it for our best interest first before the best interest of the European countries?
Well, thank you for indicating that this type of renewable energy. But let me just clear it up. Renewable energy are really coming from the sun rays as an origin. And in fact, there are many kinds of renewable energy.
Yes.
You mentioned the one for getting electricity out of it, we call it the photovoltaic. And then the second is to use heat, which we call it heaters.
Thermal?
And the third is wind. But we are missing one of the very important for us here and in Africa, which is the biogas and the biomass. We are an agriculture country. Second, we have lots of plants and we have lots of garbage. And all of them can be used for producing methane, for producing energy, for producing fertilizer, for food agriculture. So there are many ways. What we really need is, as you can see in some of the, in the last report in Africa, and we need to learn from them in this issue, in order to promote renewable energy in these different kinds in Egypt or in any other Arab country or in Africa, we need to go for small business to support them as small-scale industries and small-scale business. But the very important is to form what we can call it the technical local cadre, who is able to.
This was also one of the questions, because as far as I remember, even from the very first economic forum, which was held in Sharm el-Sheikh from the 13th to the 15th of March 2015, many agreements were signed in this field in specific, energy and renewable energy. And many of them were with high-profile companies from Germany in specific, and their CEOs were here and they met with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for more than once, and of course with Dr. Mohammed Shaker al-Marqabi, our Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy. On the ground, do you think that what's implemented till the moment is capable to answer our demands and our needs? Because as far as I understand that, we can also export energy. We can export electricity, and this can be one of the main fields of investment. Is this true?
Well, what was really started in Sharm el-Sheikh was very good, at least to diversify our dependence on the resources. The second, which was also very, very important, is that don't forget that this needs a lot of infrastructure also to be done. But what we are lacking up till now is these two issues: to go small in business. At least if someone in Sohag would like to have a small battery,
sir,
for the
this is great, but to convince those very minor or micro even projects or investors to invest in this field, this needs from us a lot of effort to convince them that they are not going to lose their money.
Exactly.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I mean, is it an encouraging field to invest in?
It is, but we need to at least transfer this knowledge and awareness to them.
Whose responsibility is this, sir? Is it the government, the cabinet, the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy, the ministry, our responsibility as media, or all of them, or the NGOs, for example, called the civil society? I think they can play a role here.
Well, thank you, all of us. I have a responsibility. When the people in Sohag, when the people in Ghargada, when the people in Asyut ask me to come and sit with them to really indicate what they can do, that's my responsibility. The media has also a responsibility, and thank you for inviting me to this show.
It's always an honor, sir.
But the second, very important, we need the business, we need the government, we need the people. We are talking about small-scale industries, and we are giving funds long-term and so on. Why don't we open it? But let people to know what is going on. First of all, in the African countries, in the deep Africa, forests and small communities, very poor communities, what they said, well, you have a mobile and you have a solar battery.
Yeah.
And if you need it much more for a light, then you have your light.
Yes.
So it is fascinating to really get this diversity and to get the people to know about
I
it.
need some propaganda, sir. You know, I've read just a couple of days ago that one of our national bank branches is now using photocells or photovoltaic cells. I'm not an expert.
Photovoltaic cells.
Photovoltaic cells to instead of electricity. But I don't know why it's not propagated well. I mean, why we do not say those examples or highlight those examples to give a model for others?
This is not something new. We need to have what we call it marketing of our products, but also marketing of our services. You know, this bank or whatever company is doing solar cells on the roof.
Yeah.
There is no added value. The added value to invite all schools around to visit, one school per day, one school per week, one school per month, but at least to add a value to promote this idea. Of course, you can also be invited to make a covering and a show and so on, but to have the people in education to listen,
the new generation
to see
and to
touch,
to be able to dream even about a better future.
And this is a value of our contribution. It is a responsibility for those who are making solar cells on the roof, who are making plans, to make an added value to educate the public and to educate the school kids, because we are all working for our future generation.
I cannot end this episode with a better statement, sir. Thank you very much for being with us. Professor Dr. Salah Harafa, Professor of Physics. We were very much delighted to have you in this episode of Africa Today, and we are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in another one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, by this we come to the end of this special episode of Africa Today. On behalf of Mahisti Rabia, Shireen Adel, Dua Raslan, and myself, Nermina Abdurrahman, many thanks for watching. Have a very good afternoon.